All right. So we're back for another deep dive. And today we're going to be looking at how to deal with bullies and haters.
Ooh.
Which, everyone has to deal with that to some extent in their life.
It's the worst, yeah.
So we're going to be looking at a YouTube video by this creator called Thewizardliz. And she's got this really sort of high energy kind of fun style. And she's tackling this tough subject.
Oh, cool.
And get this. She actually says that haters are her biggest fans.
That's interesting.
Which we'll unpack with you today and see how that actually works.
Yeah, looking forward to that.
So let's start with her first big principle. Don't engage, don't empathize.
Okay.
She's all about not giving these people your energy.
Right.
And not giving them what they want, which is your attention.
Yeah, makes sense.
And it's fascinating because, a lot of times I think people's first instinct is to defend themselves or try to reason with the bully or even try to be extra nice.
Yeah, like placate them.
Right. But she's saying no, like just don't even go there.
So what happens when you try to do those things?
Well, she tells this story about trying the whole kill them with kindness approach with an abusive parent.
Oh, okay.
And it backfired, like spectacularly.
Oh, no.
She thought, maybe if she was extra nice, it would soften them up or something.
Right.
But it just led to, like, even worse treatment.
Wow. I guess kindness can be misconstrued as weakness by some people.
Yeah. And so she ended up leaving the conversation, like, in tears.
Oh, that's so sad.
And so that's when she sort of realized, like, okay, this approach is not working.
Right.
I need a new strategy.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because it makes sense when you think about it.
Yeah.
Bullies, they want that reaction, They want to see you get upset or flustered.
Right. Yeah.
So by not engaging, you're basically taking away their power.
It's like you're cutting off their oxygen.
Exactly. And that leads perfectly into her next point, which is mirroring and distance.
Oh, interesting.
So she's saying match the energy you receive, but keep a safe distance. It's not about being mean back. It's about setting boundaries.
Right, right.
So she has this story about a friend who used this tactic with a really difficult coworker.
Oh, I want to hear this.
Yeah. This coworker was constantly making snide remarks and trying to undermine him.
Ooh, classic.
Yeah. So the friend decided to start mirroring that same passive-aggressive behavior right back at him.
What happened?
Well, get this. The coworker started backing off.
What? Yeah.
And it's like they were completely thrown off guard by having their own behavior reflected back at them.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it totally shifted the dynamic of the interaction.
So it's like he created this like force field of self-respect.
Exactly. It's a way of saying, I see what you're doing, and I'm not going to play your game.
I love it.
But it's important to remember, mirroring should always be done with the intention of protecting yourself.
Right, right.
It's not about stooping to their level.
Right.
It's about asserting your own power.
And that ties in perfectly with her next point.
Right.
No fear, no secrets.
Ooh, I like that.
She is adamant about never giving bullies personal information.
Yeah, good point.
Because they can use it against you.
For sure.
She actually says, tell them to lick it.
Wow, she doesn't hold back.
No, she does not.
So where did she learn this fearlessness?
Well, she learned it firsthand.
Okay.
Dealing with an abusive parent.
Oh, wow.
She and her siblings lived in fear for years.
Oh, man, that's awful.
Walking on eggshells,
Yeah, I can imagine.
But as they got older, they started standing up to this parent.
Good for them.
And the power dynamic like totally shifted.
So they basically disarmed the bully by not being afraid anymore.
Exactly. And she takes this fearlessness even further with her next piece of advice, which is make it dramatic, tell authority, even for small incidents.
Okay, this sounds interesting.
So she tells this hilarious story about a friend who got like lightly pushed in class.
Okay.
And instead of just like brushing it off,
yeah,
she went down to the floor yelling, "He hurt me. I'm a heart patient. Call an ambulance."
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Total overreaction.
Total drama queen.
But nobody ever messed with her again.
Wow. So she kind of turned the tables, made herself the victim.
She flipped the script.
I love that.
And became the one in control.
And it worked. Nobody messed with her again.
Nobody messed with her again.
That's brilliant.
And she argues that sometimes you have to do this because authority figures don't always recognize how serious a bullying situation can be.
Right, right.
So you have to advocate for yourself.
Mm-hmm. You are your own best defender.
Exactly. Now, if things are really toxic, she recommends even more drastic measures.
Like what?
Like changing schools, changing jobs, even changing locations if you have to.
Wow. So sometimes you really need to get out of that negative environment.
Yeah, sometimes it's just not worth it to try to fight it.
It's about putting your mental health first.
Exactly. Change your environment. Focus on healing is what she calls it.
I love that. It's so important to prioritize your own well-being.
And that brings us to the big aha moment.
Okay, I'm ready.
Haters as fans.
All right, lay it on me.
This is where she totally flips the script.
Okay.
She says, my haters are my biggest fans.
I'm intrigued. Explain this one to me.
Well, she argues that haters are obsessed with her.
Okay.
They watch her videos. They analyze her every word.
Okay.
They basically invest a ton of energy in her,
Okay, yeah.
which she sees as a form of twisted admiration.
Right, like it's coming from a place of envy or resentment.
Exactly. And it's not that she enjoys their suffering or anything like that.
Right.
It's more like she's recognizing the absurdity of the situation and refusing to take it personally.
So it's like a form of emotional detachment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it allows her to focus on the positive, on the people who genuinely support her and appreciate what she does.
Makes sense.
And this is just the tip of the iceberg. Are you ready to hear more about how she uses this haters as fans mentality to fuel her success?
Absolutely. I'm hooked. Tell me everything.
Well, you won't want to miss part 2 of our deep dives where we'll explore just that. Stay tuned.
Can't wait. Okay, so tell me more about how she uses this whole haters as fans thing to actually like help her succeed.
Yeah, so it's not just about like ignoring them or whatever, you know.
Right.
It's about like really understanding the psychology of why they're doing it.
Yeah, the why.
Yeah. And then using that to your advantage.
Okay, I'm listening. How does she actually like benefit from thinking this way?
Well, she makes this point that like if you have haters, it means you're doing something right.
Okay.
Like you're not attracting haters unless you're doing something that gets noticed.
Yeah, that's true. You don't see people hating on like some random person, you know?
Exactly.
Right.
So she sees that attention, even if it's negative,
Yeah.
as like a form of validation.
Okay.
It's like, hey, at least they're talking about me, you know?
Right, yeah, she's reframing it. Instead of like being a victim, she's like, this is proof I'm doing something that matters.
Exactly. And it goes even deeper than that. She talks about how like the intensity of their emotions, of the haters, it can actually motivate her.
Okay.
Like their negativity fuels her drive
Okay, yeah.
to prove them wrong.
Interesting. So it's like almost like a challenge for her.
Exactly. And like she even finds it kind of funny.
Okay.
Like she's amused by how worked up people get over her.
Yeah.
How much time and energy they waste trying to bring her down.
Oh, so she finds humor in it too.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's not like she enjoys seeing people suffer or anything like that.
Right, of course.
It's more like she recognizes how absurd it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And she refuses to take it personally.
So it's about detachment.
Yeah, exactly. And it allows her to focus on the positive.
Yeah.
You know, on the people who actually support her and appreciate what she does.
Right, right.
So it's all about like being mindful of where you direct your energy.
Yeah, and choosing to focus on what's good for you.
Exactly. She talks about creating this like bubble of positivity around herself
I like that.
and only letting in people who lift her up and inspire her.
It makes sense. So that's great advice.
And she encourages her viewers to do the same.
Yeah. Find your people.
Yeah. And like, she doesn't just talk about it, she actually lives it, you know?
Right.
She's built a successful career on YouTube
Yeah.
by being unapologetically herself, even though it attracts criticism.
Yeah, and it works for her.
It does. And this brings us back to her point about haters becoming fans.
Yeah.
She says she's seen it firsthand.
Really?
Yeah. People who started out as haters have actually become some of her biggest supporters.
Wow. People can change.
Yeah, they can. And it just shows that sometimes the best response to hate isn't anger or retaliation.
Right.
It's just continuing to be yourself.
Yeah. And let your success speak for itself.
Exactly. It's almost like she's saying, I'm going to keep doing my thing.
Yeah.
And if you choose to come along for the ride and eventually become a fan, great. But if not, that's your loss.
It's a very powerful message.
It is. And it's something we can all apply to our own lives, you know. Now, earlier we talked about the importance of healing from the trauma of bullying.
Yeah, so what does the Thewizardliz have to say about that?
Well, she emphasizes that it's an ongoing process.
Yes.
It's not going to happen overnight.
Right.
And it might involve like therapy or journaling or talking to trusted friends and family.
Those are all good things.
Yeah. Or even just like spending time in nature.
Yeah, I like that.
Doing things that bring you joy.
Self-care.
Yeah, exactly. And she also talks about forgiveness.
Ooh, that's a tough one.
It is, but she says it's not necessarily for the bully's sake,
Right, right.
but for your own.
It's about letting go of that anger and resentment.
Exactly, because holding on to that just hurts you in the long run.
Yeah, it keeps you stuck.
Right, and she makes it clear that forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or condoning the behavior.
Yeah.
It's about choosing to let go of the negative emotions so you can move on.
It's about reclaiming your emotional freedom.
Exactly. And she also stresses the importance of setting boundaries,
Boundaries are crucial.
even with people who have hurt you in the past.
Yeah, you have the right to protect yourself.
Right, and that might mean limiting contact with them, refusing to engage in certain conversations, or even like completely cutting ties if necessary.
Sometimes that's the healthiest option.
Yeah, and she's very clear that setting boundaries is not selfish.
Right.
It's an act of self-love and self-preservation.
It's about knowing your worth.
Exactly. And all of this goes back to her overall message of empowerment.
Yeah, she really wants people to know that they don't have to be victims.
Right, that they have the power to choose how they respond.
And that they can rise above the negativity.
Exactly. She's like a living example of turning adversity into strength.
Using that negativity as fuel.
So how does all this apply to like our listener, you know?
Right. How do we take what she's saying and make it work for other people who are going through this?
Well, I think her story offers hope
Okay.
and practical advice.
Yeah.
She's showing us that it is possible to overcome bullying and heal from the trauma.
And build a life where you feel good about yourself.
Exactly. And like, I love her humor.
Yeah, she makes it fun.
Yeah, it's like she's saying, yeah, this stuff is tough, but we can also laugh about it
Yeah.
and find the absurdity in it
Yeah.
and refuse to let it define us.
So it's about reclaiming your power.
Yeah. And not letting the negativity have the final say.
Exactly. And that's something we can all apply to our lives.
Absolutely. No matter what challenges we're faced with.
So where do we go from here?
Well, I think it's time to zoom out a little
Okay.
and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like, how do we tackle bullying on a societal level?
Right. Not just individually.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And how can we create a culture where it's just like less common in general?
That's a good question.
We'll explore that in part 3 of our deep dive, so stay tuned. Okay, so we've talked about the Wizardliz's own like personal strategies for dealing with bullies and haters.
Yeah.
But now I want to kind of zoom out and look at the bigger picture, you know?
Right. Like, how do we actually tackle this as a society?
Yeah, how do we create a culture where bullying is just like less common?
It's a tough question.
It is, it is.
But the Wizardliz, she does talk about the importance of like speaking out against bullying whenever you see it.
Yeah, she doesn't go into a ton of detail on that, but it's a good starting point.
Yeah, because silence just allows it to continue.
Exactly. Like by speaking up, you're sending the message that this behavior is not okay.
Right. It's about changing those social norms.
Yeah, like we got to move away from this idea that bullying is just like a rite of passage or something.
Yeah, it's harmful and it needs to be addressed.
And it's not always about like confronting the bully directly, you know,
Right.
although sometimes that might be necessary.
Yeah, in some cases.
But it's also about like supporting the victim.
Yeah, making sure they know they're not alone.
Exactly. And just like fostering a culture of empathy and compassion in general.
Yeah, imagine if we all just like made a conscious effort to be more empathetic.
Right.
It could make a huge difference.
It could. It really could. And it starts with education, you know.
Yeah, teaching kids about empathy, conflict resolution.
Right. Respecting others.
Yeah, even those who are different from them.
Exactly.
Right.
And it's not just about teaching kids. It's about us adults modeling that behavior.
Oh, absolutely. Kids are always watching us.
They are. They pick up on everything.
So we need to be mindful of how we're interacting with each other.
Yeah, how we handle conflict.
Yeah, and how we treat people who are maybe different from us.
Now, we can't talk about bullying without talking about technology.
Yeah, cyberbullying is a whole other beast.
It's a huge problem, and it's so hard to control.
It's relentless. It can reach like a massive audience.
Yeah, and it can be even more insidious than traditional bullying.
Like, how do we even begin to address that? It feels so overwhelming.
Well, I think awareness is key.
Okay.
Like parents, educators, tech companies, they all need to be aware of the problem
Yeah.
and take steps to educate kids about online safety.
Right. Responsible digital citizenship.
Exactly. And we need to hold social media platforms accountable too.
Yeah, like they need to be doing more to prevent this stuff from happening.
It's tricky though, right?
Yeah.
Because you have to balance that with free speech and censorship.
Right. It's a complicated issue.
It is, but it's a conversation we need to be having as a society.
Definitely. So what does all this mean for our listener? You know, someone who's actually going through this.
Well, I think the Wizardliz's story offers hope.
Okay.
It shows us that it is possible to overcome bullying and heal from that trauma.
And create a life that feels good.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And she does it in such a, fun and engaging way.
Yeah, she makes it entertaining.
It's like she's saying, yeah, this stuff is hard, but we can also laugh about it.
Yeah, don't take it too seriously.
And we can find the absurdity in it, and we don't have to let it define us.
So it's all about taking back your power.
Exactly. And remembering that you have a choice in how you respond.
And that you can rise above it.
So to wrap things up, remember Thewizardliz's advice. Don't engage, don't empathize, mirror their energy, and tell them to lick it.
I love that. It's so empowering.
It is. And it's not just about dealing with bullies. It's about, any situation where someone's trying to bring you down.
Right. It's about setting boundaries.
Yeah. And knowing your worth.
And surrounding yourself with positive people.
And focusing on your passions.
Exactly. So thank you for joining us on this deep dive into dealing with bullies and haters.
We hope you found it helpful and maybe even a little bit inspiring.
Remember, you are not alone.
And you have the power to create change.
Stay strong.
And until next time, stay curious.